Welcome everyone, today is Wednesday, we have gone through a weekly reset in EU as well, and for today, for this glorious occasion, we have the Mythic Plus Season 3 awards. We are ready to give awards to specs who have worked hard in this season and recognize them for their effort with a, figurative, of course, trophy. This is our trophy number 1, which goes to the most surprising spec in Mythic Plus. So, before you started this season, and then now, look at this, look at the meta, look at the most popular comps. Which one of these you wouldn't have bet 50 silver becoming at this level, growing at this level in this season? Well, for the knowers, for the ones in the know, the answer can only be Havoc Demon Hunter. It has to be, right? Frost Decay was fully expected to be part of the meta from the get-go. Arcane Mage was fully expected to be part of the meta from the get-go. Vengeance Demon Hunter was already detected from the PTR as being outplayed by both Prot Paladin and Prot Warrior from the get-go, as well as Restoration Druid being expected to be doing very well in Mythic Plus. The only odd other option would have been Resto Shaman, but Resto Shaman was also being played a lot, not as much as Resto Druid, but still quite a lot in the PTR before the release of the season. The only one that was much more out there was Havoc. Out of the top 10 most popular groups at the very high key range in Mythic Plus, we have pointed out how Havoc excels in funneling single target thanks to Wounded Quarry, very similar to how Arcane can funnel single target. Havoc is almost even higher than Arcane in that regard, and unlike Arcane, Havoc scales even more on more targets, because of course the more you are pulling, the more AoE damage you are doing, the more 20% of that chunk of AoE damage gets funneled on single target. This turned out to be extremely effective. Turns out that you're also perfectly fine running 2 of these kind of funnel specs at once, because you are running Arcane alongside Havoc, so you have double of this kind of funnel. It was definitely unexpected before the release of the season, so the prize is theirs for these awards. The second award is the opposite, is the least impressive top tier spec in this season. The spec that we almost forgot to even mention simply because we were just already expecting it by default. It wasn't really a surprise whatsoever. The kind that if you were watching a movie, it was so obvious, you would almost call it boring. You were almost at that point expecting a twist, because surely this must have been a red herring because it was just too obvious it was going to end this way. It actually did end this way, and it's Frost Decay. Ever since just a few of their talent changes and buffs in the PTR, as well as their new tier set, which is also quite powerful, Frost Decay established itself as an S tier spec in the PTR, and then they have kept that level, that power level on release. So, very much expected since then, which is why they get this prize in this season. No other spec was expected nearly as much. None of the healers, because they were more, fighting each other for a spot. None of the tanks, they were also fighting for a spot. For the DPS, the one that got perhaps closer was Arcane, but even Arcane wasn't nearly as much of a certain thing compared to Frost Decay. In fact, even now, you can see from the top groups, if there is one spec that can be cut, it's actually Arcane. You can see from the most popular groups, whenever they are thinking of bringing in the odd niche pick, elemental, ret, marksmanship, the one that suffers and loses out more often than not is Arcane. Sometimes it's Havoc, more often than not it's gonna be Arcane. So definitely the prize for the most expected, the most unimpressive and unsurprising of the predictions goes to Frost Decay. Then we have the prize for the most improved of the season, but actually because of the timing this could also fit very well for the biggest betrayal of the season. You can see this was 2 resets ago. These were the most popular comps 2 resets ago in 16 level keys or higher. A lot of this is very familiar. You don't see many odd things in there. And then you check the most popular compositions from 1 week ago, last reset basically. So we're not playing find the 10 little differences in these two pictures, we're really only playing find the one little difference in these pictures. The one little difference is the winner of this prize right here, which is Beast Mastery. So you can see that prior to a couple of weeks ago, you couldn't even point to Beast Mastery in this map because it was just marksmanship. Marksmanship itself also wasn't exactly super popular, but it was an option. Obviously more than enough of an option if the top group right now doing +20s did include a marksmanship hunter. However, ever since the buffs to Black Arrow and the buffs to flat-out buffs to Beast Mastery Hunter, there has been a massive growth right now for the spec. You can see this growth of BM Hunter much more now after the round of buffs. We also say the prize and the award is also for Betrayal, since they are overtaking their own brother Spec in Mythic Plus. These sets of buffs have also made Dark Ranger an actually viable build in Mythic Plus as well. You're still defaulting to Pack Leader most of the time, but Dark Ranger is definitely not a meme anymore. Also, what was discovered already a while ago, you can still play in Mythic Plus completely foregoing your AoE sets of talents, so you can spend them somewhere else and, for example, increase your single target damage. Mostly ever since Hunter Theory Crafters realized you don't really need to use multi-shot to enable Beast Cleave to do AoE damage. When you summon so many Dire Beasts, you're gonna have Dire Cleave active at all times anyways, so you are going to gain Beast Cleave through here. So you won't need any of these talents, meaning you can go and pick up extra talents you wouldn't have otherwise taken to just give you extra overall damage. And of course, thanks to the buffs of Blizzard, this is currently having very good results for BM Hunter. They do also have decent single target focus, not actually funnel, they don't gain that much from funneling, but as a yet another example of a major first pull, this one in Floodgate, where the biggest and most dangerous is the Shreddinator, which has way more HP than the rest. You want to shave down this guy's HP much more. Obviously, Havoc with Wounded Quarry is what is gonna have the most focus single target with their funnel, but BM, thanks to the extra damage of kill command on the primary target and the pet melee auto attack on the primary target, still has slightly more focus on their primary target, so it does definitely better than the turbo AoE of Frost DK. So the award for the most improved definitely goes to BM Hunter. Then of course we have to give the reverse. We have to give the award for the most regressed, the most worsened of the specs going from last season to this season. This one is definitely taking the prize. It was in contention with a few other specs, like for example Balance Druid, which was mega meta last season, started out as reasonably popular this season, but then it was clear it wasn't gonna be a thing, so they progressively lost more popularity. Same goes for the moment for Disc. Disc was the meta spec last season, started out somewhat fighting with the other two popular healers, and then when it wasn't going to be, they lost more and more. Meanwhile, the one that probably hurts more is Vengeance, which is also the winner of this trophy. Because unlike Balance and unlike Discipline, they did start the season believing they were the meta pick. They did start the season being the most popular, but this went slowly and more slowly down the drain every week that passed in this season. We mentioned one of the weaknesses was going to be losing their very powerful tier set last season compared to what they have this season, which is not nearly as good. Also the combination of Prot Paladin and especially Prot Warrior getting a much more powerful tier set on top of the winner of our previous prize, the surprise of the season being Havoc, becoming more and more popular, so not incentivizing playing Vengeance if Havoc is being popular. It has contributed to Vengeance just losing slowly over time. So compared to the feasting days of Season 2, we are definitely in a fast and famine period for Vengeance in this season. The next prize is the Maiden Expansion Trophy. This is the trophy for the first time a spec has been worthwhile and useful in the entire expansion. So, not just this season, or not just compared to last season. From Season 1 to Season 2 to Season 3, there was one spec that has only been good now. Technically, possibly even Havoc was up there, but Havoc had to relinquish this title since they already won these awards. All the other meta specs right now have been good at one point or another. Resto Shaman started Season 1 very well, so being meta now is not that big of a deal. Prot Warrior also was the meta tank for the first couple of months, and Prot Paladin was the meta tank for the rest of Season 1. Frost DK was the meta spec in Season 1, before taking a break in Season 2 for Unholy. Arcane Mage was the exact same meta spec last season. Some of the other specs popular now still saw play in previous seasons, like Elemental Shaman, like Assassination Rogue, or Balanced Druid. Of course, the other one that is at its first time is Resto Druid. Now, admittedly, it's not as much of an impactful trophy, since Resto Druid was also the meta spec in Season 1 of Dragonflight and Season 3 of Dragonflight and Season 4 of Dragonflight. So they have been meta for 3 of the 4 seasons of the past expansion. So missing out on being played almost all together in the first 2 seasons of this expansion wasn't that big of a deal. But at least now they are definitely back in a position where they are strong enough to make top level keys. They are still fighting it out with Resto Shaman, and who is being played more, but they had to go basically a year without being played in Mythic Plus. So it is a trophy, an award we are still willing to give them in this season of Mythic Plus. A trophy I am very happy to give, an award I am very cheerful is gonna happen for once, is the Once in a Lifetime award. This is the award dedicated for the bullied, for the disenfranchised, for the poor guys that have been pestered all their life by their cooler, better looking, richer, more successful older brother. Imagine how Frost Mage must feel when they look at Fire Mage or Arcane Mage, or Brewmaster Monk might feel when they see Windwalker Monk tearing up the raid, or Mistweaver Monk being the meta healer, an award that was won in times past, for example, by Survival in Shadowlands, for once getting their spotlight over BM and marksmanship once in their lifetime, before going back to the nethers of being completely forgotten. And this expansion, this award, has to go to Feral. Feral Druid is in arguably the first time, the first period in its life, at least in modern WoW, since, for example, Mythic Plus was introduced, where they are thoroughly a better spec than Balance. They are doing better in the raid. Granted, they are both terrible, but at least Feral Druid has top level single target damage in the raid. And in Mythic Plus, Feral Druid is also doing better, or at the very least less than doing better. They are more popular on average. Your average Feral Druid in high keys will be doing higher keys than your average Balanced Druid, which is not something you would have seen in a long time, if not ever. So yes, true, we are still not talking about a meta spec. They're still not part of the meta comp right now, but they can still find their niche. They can still team up with Beast Mastery, team up with Fury Warrior, team up with Havoc or with Outlaw or Assassination or Sub, go for some melee physical damage comps and have their fun in Mythic Plus. So definitely, for the first time, a much better outlook in their meta situation when it comes to Feral. And the last of our awards for this Mythic Plus ceremony is the subjective one, is the Get Out of My Group award. This is the subjective award dedicated, especially as a healer, to the spec I seem to always see die. The spec who always seem almost addicted to never pressing their defensives until they are down to 20% HP and the damage is gone and the defensive is wasted. Or the conservative ones, the ones who are saving their health potions and their defensives for the next expansion. And that prize goes to Shadow Priests. Shadow Priests don't seem to know that they are supposed to flash heal themselves before any instance of heavy damage to get their 10% damage reduction. It's like, if me DPS, flash heal do no damage, so why click flash heal? I assume that's their logic. I'm also assuming that is the same train of thought they have when clicking dispersion. If me DPS, dispersion, me cannot do DPS, so why click dispersion? I guess that's also the logic that goes down there. They just seem terribly squishy already, and on top of that, whenever I find them in my groups, they just never use whatever little they can to stay alive. So they have all of my loathing and all of my dislikement for this award. Definitely a subjective one. You might have your own pet peeves on seeing a certain spec join your groups and knowing you're about to see some clown shit in your party. For me, it's definitely Shadow Priest. So with this last award, we are done with the ceremony. We are done with the event on giving out the prizes to all of these specs from the Mythic Plus season so far. Whether it was for the best spec, the most surprising spec, the most disappointing spec, the most improved spec, that's what we have been able to see in these first 5 resets of the season of Mythic Plus. So, with this said and done, with my minions delivering all of the prizes, the trophies to all of the winning specs, we can now say goodbye to each other on this Wednesday. We're starting the goodbyes by thanking everyone for having watched the video, together with, of course, everyone else who has been supporting completely for free by liking and commenting down below, as well as subscribing to the channel itself. Now, with these things out of the way, thank you guys again for watching. See you guys tomorrow, and in the meantime, weird. I seem to have talked for quite a lot now, like over an hour of yapping, and I haven't gotten the traditional nose itching for now.